Our first hearing of the new year, a new Congress, a new administration, and I hope it will also be a new era for the Department of the Interior. I'd like to thank you, Congressman Zinke, for being here. Yours has really been a life of service to our country, from your more than 2 decades as a Navy SEAL to your time as a member of the House of Representatives. And then, of course, most recently, you have answered the call to continue your public work as a Cabinet Secretary for our next President. Now, we have just begun to get to know one another here since the President-elect announced his intention to nominate you. I've appreciated the conversations that we have had, and I look forward to continuing them in this more formal setting here today. And as you learn more about each of the states that are touched by the Department of Interior, I particularly appreciate your efforts to understand how and why Alaska is unique among them. Now, to state that Alaska has had a difficult or a tenuous relationship with the outgoing administration is probably more than an understatement. Instead of seeing us as the state of Alaska, our current President and Secretary seem to see us as Alaska, the National Park and Wildlife Refuge, a broad, expansive wilderness with little else of interest or value. We've lost access to lands and to waters that even President Carter had promised us would be open to us. We've had our long-standing right to manage wildlife within our borders ripped away. We've seen projects halted through the delay or the denial of vital permits. For 8 years, it seemed that this administration has taken the approach that Alaska has to be protected from Alaskans, and they've acted accordingly. The restrictions that we face in resource development are almost unbelievable at times. Through the Interior Department, the Obama administration has attempted to ban energy development in nearly all of the Beaufort and the Chukchi Seas. It's withdrawn tens of thousands of square miles of water outside of those 2 areas. It's attempted to convert the non-wilderness 1002 area in our coastal plain in Anwar, which was set aside by Congress for its energy potential, into de facto wilderness. It's canceled lease sales, closed half of our National Petroleum Reserve, and imposed costly extra legal mitigation requirements. And it goes on and on and on, and we've had an opportunity to talk about that. The Obama administration has repeatedly violated or sought to evade our No More clause. It has rewritten management plans to cut off economic activities and other reasonable uses of public lands. It's deprived of us of an opportunity, but offered nothing in return, not even to Alaska Native villages that are threatened because of climate change. And this reaches all the way out to King Cove, where our current secretary rejected a short, 1-lane gravel, non-commercial use road needed to protect the health and safety of nearly 1,000 Alaskans. Without that road, we've seen 55 medevacs over the past 3 years alone, including recently an elderly Aleut woman who had a hip fracture. She was forced to wait more than 40 hours for help to arrive. And while Alaska may be the poster child, the reality is that our state is not alone in having suffered at the hands of the Interior Department. With little regard for local concern and opposition, the President has designated more land and water as national monuments than the previous 18 presidents combined. Landscape level planning, a term that sounds pretty reasonable, is another example of a strategy that has been used to reduce the influence of local areas so that someone sitting here in Washington, D.C. can tell someone living in 40 Mile, Alaska or Blanding, Utah, what their life is going to look like. And of course, Congressman Zinke, this is the Interior Department that you are walking into. And I'm counting on you, as many Alaskans are, and I think many Americans are, to come in and help fix it. I know that you're a Navy man, so excuse the expression, but we hope the cavalry is on the way. And I've got a list of some things that I think can be done to improve the situation. We need an Interior Department that fully understands the commitments made to Alaska and that abides by them, particularly our No More clause. We need the department to recognize that individuals such as John Sturgeon, what they go through when agencies like the Park Service overreach into our lives. We need the department to restore public access to public lands, to allow us to produce our resources, and to help us restore throughput in the Trans-Alaska Pipeline. We need a department that will lift decades-old public lands orders that no longer serve any purpose other than to allow the federal government to control more of Alaska, and that will prioritize the cleanup of contaminated lands and legacy wells. In Alaska, which has 223 million federal acres, but just 1/4% of its land in private ownership. Again, we got 223 million federal acres, 1/4% of land in private ownership. So Interior must recognize the importance of land transfers and land exchanges. We've got promises that have been made to our state at statehood that remain unfulfilled. Promises made pursuant to ANCSA, promises made to our Native veterans. So know that ensuring that our federal government honors those commitments to Alaskans remains one of my highest priorities. We also need a department that will rely on the expertise of the state and do more to address our needs, from volcanic monitoring to mineral mapping within its budget. And that's a lot on its own. But if you are confirmed, you will also inherit an array of problems and challenges that are much broader in scope. The Park Service reports it has an $11.3 billion maintenance backlog, meaning that even while some remain intent on acquiring more federal land, we're not properly taking care of what we already have. The U.S. affiliated islands, the territories like the Northern Marianas and the freely associated states like Palau, have issues ranging from worker visas to compact agreements that cannot be forgotten either. And then there's the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Whether we are discussing tribal courts, education, infrastructure, or development, we must work together to improve and empower our Native communities. And that begins with meaningful consultation with tribes, which is a legal requirement that the outgoing administration has often failed to meet. So finally, Congressman Zinke, if you are confirmed, I expect we will work together in a manner that is thoughtful and reflective of a true partnership. And I hope that you'll be able to show that the Interior Department is capable of working with rather than against local stakeholders to achieve good results. I think in the conversations that we have had, you've shared a vision of how the department will look under your direction. We both know that that will take hard work and close cooperation with this committee to fulfill your vision, but that work is well worth it for all of us who truly care about our public lands, who want to see them managed well, and who want the public to have access to them, whether for rock climbing or gold mining or energy development. So again, I thank you for being here, for your willingness to serve, and I'd now like to turn to Ranking Member Cantwell for your comments.